In this video, I'm going to compare the Transition Smuggler to the Transition Spur on my local cross-country trails. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to find out if the Transition Smuggler is just a slow, sluggish dog on cross-country trails, or if it's okay. All of us are looking for that one bike that can handle rugged trails in the mountains and then handle smoother trails without being too slow. Now, the Transition Spur is one of the most versatile bikes I've ever ridden. When I get up in the mountains on that thing, I'm just amazed at how good it rides for only 120 millimeters of travel front and rear. But the Smuggler has 140 and 130 in the back. You can make it 140 in the back, but for this test, we're going to keep it at 130. And I'm also going to do a time trial to see how these bikes compare time-wise. I'm doing that for the main reason that I just want to see how much slower is a Transition Smuggler on a time trial course. You would never buy a Transition Smuggler for a cross-country time trial. In fact, I may be the first person ever to do a time trial on a Transition Smuggler. But I just want to see how these compare, because if you have a Smuggler or a bike like the Smuggler, you know, a specialized stump jumper, or any bike that's this all-around trail bike category with like 140 in the front, 130 in the back, are you going to be just way far behind your cross-country buddies if you find yourself in that situation, or are you going to be okay? So I'm going to start off today on the Transition Smuggler. I'm going to talk not only about the times, but more importantly, how does it feel on the trail? I'm not going to change out the tires and use the same wheels. I'm going to use stock. The Smuggler is the GX Axis build, and the Transition Spur is the GX build, by the way. So let's head out to the trails and compare these two bikes. I'm starting off on the Smuggler because I've been riding the Spur a lot lately on these trails, and I didn't want to have bike familiarity give the Spur an advantage right off the bat. So starting off really slow, warming up. It's a little chilly this morning. Temperatures are in the 40s. Nice and refreshing. Arm warmer and vest weather, finally. I can already tell that I'm just sitting up more on the Smuggler. The reach feels shorter. You know, the bars feel just a little bit closer to me, which is great for descending. But for cross-country trails, I like to be stretched out a little bit more. So again, I'll just talk through how I feel in terms of the ride quality on this video. I'll film just like the first minute of the time trial course, so you can get an idea of what that looks like. But it's going to take me about 16 minutes to do the course. I've had a pretty nasty head cold the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Finally clearing up, finally feeling better. Probably won't have a great time compared to other times, but today it's just a matter of comparing these two bikes to see if the Spur is just super, or see if the Smuggler is super slow on these trails, or, you know, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're going to be okay trying to keep up with guys on faster bikes, girls on faster bikes, or you're just riding by yourself, you know, just how does the bike feel? Because if you get like a long travel bike on cross-country trails, they're just not fun to ride. I mean, forget trying to keep up with people. It's just not as fun. I like going fast. So, all right, I'll pick it up on the time trial course. Rolling up to the start for the first ever time trial done on a Transition Smuggler. Probably not, but it's probably not many of us. I'm gonna start right as soon as I cross that blue trail sign up there. Start to pick it up. Start and start. Had some rain recently. These trails are really dialed right now for traction. Do have a heart rate monitor on. climb right here. This trail is up and down the whole way. Short up and down, but very hilly. Okay. Oh, that was my first hardish effort after being sick. Definitely not my fastest time, no matter what bike I'm on. I did about 95% effort. 100% effort would have been a little bit too much after being sick, but time was 16:43. And now I'm gonna roll back to the car and get the spur, which is locked in the vehicle, and hopefully it's still there. All right, good news. The spur is still in the vehicle. Alrighty, let's swap them out. All right, on the spur. Everything's the same. I got the same amount of water in my water bottle, wearing the same thing. I can already tell this bike just feels so much more playful at these kind of speeds. And that's the thing about a longer travel bike. It just takes faster speeds, even rougher trails, to make the bike come alive. This bike already feels alive, even at this slower warm-up pace. And it feels so much lighter. Stretched out just a bit more. And by the way, I'm running the shock in the medium position on the spur. And when I was on the Smuggler, I had it in the open position. You only have 2 positions on that one. This shock you have 3 positions. The climb position on the Smuggler is just too harsh, even for trails like this. We still have a lot of roots. Something else that I noticed on the spur is because I'm a bit more forward, I feel like the front end actually gets better traction on cross-country trails with a lot of turns like this. But man, this spur feels so good on these trails. I'll start the time trial coming up and let you know how much faster it is, because it will be faster. It's just laws of physics. Question is, how much? Entering the pain cave for the second time today. And here we go. I always do 2 clocks just in case one of them fails. This bike just feels so much lighter on these trails. I also feel lower to the ground on this bike, which actually helps on the cornering, these tighter corners. I also feel like I can accelerate out of the corners easier. All right, that was interesting. So this bike, the spur, felt a lot faster. There's two things in play here. One is speed, but more importantly, fun. And this bike was just more fun on these cross-country trails. I just felt like I could move the bike around a lot easier. It wasn't near as much of a chore to get around corners and accelerate out of corners. But the time was much closer than I thought it would be. I was 8 seconds faster on this bike, which I thought I'd be like a minute faster. Now, I do think there was a little bit of fatigue factor in the sense that I did a time trial before this and rode 45 minutes before. So maybe that accounted for 15 seconds. So we'll just say this bike was about, let's say 20 seconds, 25 seconds. We'll give it 25. Faster on a 16 and a half minute time trial course, almost 17. So I'll just go ahead and kind of wrap up this video with a little just kind of summary, and that is, if you don't mind being just a little bit slower in a Smuggler, that's a super versatile bike. If you want one for more tame trails and you want a bike for rougher trails, because man, when it gets rowdy, that bike is amazing. It's also amazing what a difference in the head angle will make just by 1 degree. So this bike has a 66-degree head angle and a shorter wheelbase. The Smuggler has a 65-degree head angle. But man, that makes a huge difference in terms of how the bike feels. So, you know, it's just going to depend on what you need. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is one of the most versatile bikes I've ever ridden, that can fly on these kind of cross-country trails and also go pretty fast in the mountains on rougher trails. Not as fast as the Smuggler up there, but you know. But you know, something else that's pretty interesting is it's not like I put on faster tires on the Smuggler. The stock tires are bigger than the ones that come on this bike, a little bit heavier. So, you know, if you put some lighter wheels on that Smuggler, man, it could be like almost as fast as this bike. It's kind of crazy. Wheels make a huge difference. Before I do the final wrap up of this video, I want to jump in here and mention a few things that I thought about after the day I shot this video. First of all, the more climbing that you have on a course, the greater the time differences you're going to see between these two bikes. It's pretty obvious, but I want to mention it. So the lap that I did only had about 275 feet of climbing. If it had 1,000 feet of climbing, then you're going to see a much bigger time differences between these two bikes because the Spur is just so much lighter. The other thing that I want to mention, and I said it in the video, but I want to say it again because it's probably the crux of this video, and that is the Spur is just more fun to ride. And it's so important to have the right bike for the right trails that you ride most often. On these types of trails, I would pick a cross-country bike or a downcountry bike over a trail bike 10 times out of 10 if I was going to focus on fun. Not saying that the Smuggler cannot be fun on these trails. It is a fun bike to ride. And there are downhills where I just pin it as fast as I can go and hit the corners as fast as I can. But I just have so much more fun on a bike that's agile and flickable and accelerates well. And those little short climbs, you just punch it as hard as you can and get up. Again, it's so important to have a bike that's fun to ride, because the reason that we ride is to get outside, to get exercise, and to have fun. And if you're on the right bike for the trails, then you're going to have more fun. Now, when I get up into the mountains, I have more fun on the Smuggler. Hitting downhills fast, it's just more fun. So those are the two things I thought about that I want to highlight. Now back to the video. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up. Leave your comments below, please. And also, give this video a thumbs up for me. It really helps out the channel, helps out the algorithms, and puts the right videos in front of the right crowd. I'm finding that YouTube algorithms are really important to keep a channel going, so do that, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you like mountain biking, subscribe. All right, I'll catch you all in the next video. I'm gonna continue my ride and enjoy this beautiful day before I go home and stuff my face with Thanksgiving food. Later. The greater gap's going to be between the time differences. So the Smur, the Smur, that's the new bike Transition's coming out with.